sometimes you have very, very lonely moments in your life. But if within you, deep inside, it feels right, and you can look yourself in the mirror next day and say, well, I tried. And you were not afraid of failure. You actually calculated it in. There was always an option of failure. Then you're on the right track.
You told me like media always write you up or write you down, always. Like you have a lot of misjudgment on you. Do you think you find peace with that?
Yeah, because I've always come to the conclusion you're never as good and never as bad as people say you are. The speed doesn't really matter so much, but the forward movement and not looking back so much. It is hard work, and it's pain and it's sweat. Then you'll be rewarded.
Born into one of Europe's most distinguished families, Countess Stephanie von Bismarck grew up surrounded by history, expectation, and elegance. Her lineage carries centuries of diplomacy and power, yet her own path has been one of profound reinvention. From public life to private introspection, Stephanie has continually evolved. Now she's an author, soul leader, public voice for digital education, and host of her new podcast, How Do We Manage?, where she explores how we adapt, evolve, and stay human in a fast-changing world. Today, Stephanie joins Women in the Penthouse to talk not just about legacy, but liberation, about finding the courage when the world is watching, redefining identity beyond the titles, and beginning again, fearlessly, limitlessly, and agelessly.
Apparently, this is the first time that the generation who is the most unhappy are not the mid-agers anymore. It's the younger ones. And that tells you something. They don't wish for more online gaming. If that's the only thing you give them, that they'll be doing that. I think this is historically and structurally. We as women have been put in by religions, by cultures. We've sort of been put in the corner in order not to become too dangerous, perhaps. I really see it that way, because I believe that the strength and the power that a woman holds within, that is limitless.
Welcome to Women in the Penthouse, where we share the limitations, celebrate resilience, and prove that transformation knows no age. Join me as we dive into raw, inspiring conversations with incredible women who have rewritten their own stories and ignite the courage within you to do the same. Okay, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be
so
here.
Happy to have you on Women in the Penthouse and very excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, so am I.
How's your trip so far in London?
I'm sort of visiting in and out of London, and I haven't, although I'm here quite a lot, it took me quite a while to get here, but...
I know, our studio is a little bit not central.
But it's, but I made it, and it's all good. So I'm very happy to be here.
Life is always like new adventure.
Yes, absolutely.
And you just launched your new podcast.
Yes.
This May.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's called How Do We Manage?
Exactly. How do we manage?
It's fascinating. I've listened to a few episodes. I like how you put those kind of big topics like AI into really daily context. Yeah. So people can take away like practical tips in their daily life.
Exactly. That's also what it is all about. You know, it's all these big questions, but they're we're trying to narrow them down to either help you shift your perspective a little bit, just make you think a little differently or a little wider. And then how can we actually apply things that we learn in these conversations to our lives, to our everyday lives? Because in the end, it's all that question: how do we manage? How do we manage our lives and our future and our past and our present and all of that? So it's we're tackling big topics out there.
It's beautiful. I think we will talk about it in more details later. It's an interesting part. So Stephanie, you were born into one of the most famous family names in Europe.
Yeah.
And for a long time, it's related to history, heritage, legacy, and of course, power.
Yes.
But I think you have a fascinating journey of self-discovery and kind of reinventing yourself, reinventing your life. So I think it's very inspiring. I'm just very excited to explore more. And today you are an author.
Yeah,
thought
well, I'm an
leader?
author since quite a while. So I wrote my first book on 2000, I don't know, 9 or something. And then I sort of kept, writing, and altogether it's been 3 books, and, many, many, many articles, and many, a lot of things, yeah.
And you're also a public voice for digital education.
Yes. Digital education, especially for young people, but of course, it doesn't always stop with young people. I've been working in the field of sexual child abuse, and mainly focusing on online crimes. So meaning, adult content featuring children. So very, very, very hard topic of a very dark side of what the digital world has opened, or probably facilitated even more. So yeah, that has been a red thread throughout my entire past, let's say 20 years, child protection. But it's always in the end about education, always narrows down to education. And then that's probably also a little bit where in the end the podcast comes in as well, because
that's like a new role you claim this year, a new chapter.
Exactly. That's a very new chapter, but in the end everything, although everything is developing, it's all sort of stepping stones. And when I worked in trying to protect children from online mainly, but sexual abuse and these kind of horrendous topics, I learned one thing. We did a lot of programs. We worked with survivors. We worked with, governments and all of it. But in the end, I learned one thing is that you will be successful mainly in one field, and that is if you educate everyone around these horrific crimes, how they're happening, when they're happening, by whom they're happening, and that is not only to the children directly, but also to their surroundings. That goes to law enforcement, that goes to the executive, that goes to parents, and it's one of those topics that is very uncomfortable, and no one really wants to talk about it, and neither wants to listen to it. But it's that, obviously, that factor alone opens the world for those who are committing these kind of crimes. Because if you have a society that looks away or shies away, it's an easy playground for those who are committing these kind of horrendous crimes.
Yeah.
And then, it's all about, I really do believe that with the right education and information, you can move the needle. I've seen that throughout my entire life. Sometimes you can't stop certain things, but you can educate them. You can give the people the tools to react, to seek help, to identify, to really understand what's happening. And if you give them those tools, I'm a strong believer in prevention, and not only action after things are happened. So if you can equip the people with the right methods and tools, you can actually, you can really, really save a lot of children, and in the end, a lot of people in future generations.
But I'm fascinated, like how it all started. You said it's like for 20 years, it's like red-threading. It's so close to your heart. But your upbringing was so different, right?
Yes.
So we always go back to the beginning of the story. So maybe tell us more about the little Stephanie, and maybe when was the first time you realized your family name carried weight?
Well, I guess I would have been in school, because, I had this name, and my parents, they always told me, they put me to very regular schools. So I was not in some sort of privileged schools. Okay. I was in public school. And they always made it clear to me that, this is normal life. And then people have, preconceived opinions about how my life should be, and how they think I was living in some sort of castle with lots of staff and all of that. None of that was true, of course. But, I think this is just how, people were thinking that I was. And that probably was, for me, one of those first times where I understood, okay, I'm somehow different. Yeah.
So what was your dream like when you were 10, maybe?
When I was 10, I think I was one of those people who wanted to be like everything all at once. I want to be from a veterinarian. I think I wanted to be a firefighter. I didn't have like typical one aspiration.
Okay.
I thought all sorts of things were cool. But in the end,
That's our message, limitless.
Yes, exactly. It was my imagination it still is, by the way, very limitless.
Okay, that's good.
So I think I could have imagined a lot of things. But it would often, trying to remember back, involve people somehow. I mean, it would involve people. And in hindsight now,
it's more like the creative side, or I think your mom is like interior
architect. Yes, yes.
So she's like brought you some creative side, or
absolutely. I was super creative. I'm very much into arts. I always had this combination of arts and science. I loved arts. It was one of my big things when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But also so was mathematics. So it was a little bit those kind of things. It was physics, mathematics, and arts and probably languages, just because I had an advantage from home already speaking quite a few. So any subject in school where you're good just because how you grew up, you're gonna like it because you have easy A's. It's just easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been those areas that's always sort of drawn me, and I think looking back, hindsight is not a good advisor generally, because afterwards we're always smarter. But I would have probably rather studied medicine if I would have had sort of that push or that choice a little bit more.
Why is that? Is that you want to using to help people?
Help people, absolutely, but also very interested in just the sciences and that combination. That would have been probably good. But I'm also not someone who sort of dwells on what should have done and what should have happened. It didn't. But sometimes you can just reflect back and say, probably that's what I should have done, but obviously I wasn't there. So
there's no regret, right?
No, I don't believe in regrets because they don't take you anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't. You can examine, and then you can understand. And if you really want to change things that you, in quote unquote, would regret, then go on and change it. As long as you're still alive, you have all options open, or at least if you try.
That's so true. But it's interesting. Instead of like people think you live a relatively easy life. So like Women in the Penthouse, we always talk about being fearless. So I can feel, even when you were that young, you already, do you think you have a lot of fear at that time?
I don't know if it was very fearful. It was just that it just took me time to understand. It took me time to understand.
Is there a moment like you realize, I just want to be me? I don't want to be like...
Oh, yeah, but honestly, I think that... in that regard, I'm probably a slow learner.
Oh, okay.
Because, don't forget, I still grew up in very conservative, family structures, very old sort of traditions, and very, where sometimes certain lifelines nearly seem to be sort of set out for you, set out for apparently a girl that comes from where I come from. So... to some extent, I certainly followed that. And that really the me part, where I started understanding, hold on a second, I'm giving too much of myself to things where I start questioning whether that's truly who I am, or whether that's just been imposed to me, or were other people's ideas and expectations and family traditions, expectations, all of that. That was much later. I mean, I'd say that was just probably a few years ago that I started. This is never, you know that yourself, this is never a process that happens from yesterday to today. That's a process that, happens slowly over time.
Yeah.
When you start realizing, and especially if you've lived a life sort of in certain sort of directions to understand, and then to all of a sudden break out or break free from what supposedly has been your set path is not exactly an easy thing. And I do also understand, I know many women in particular who never do that. And I don't judge them, because I know it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength, and somehow an option to also do it, which is not an easy. It doesn't mean it's not the better choice for you in the end, but it's not an easy choice.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's always, we all have the possibility, like we just discussed that. I love the word possibility. And actually everyone has the possibility to reach, have that their dream life, or I would say a high destiny. Like they have the power. But I completely agree with you, like it's not easy. It's like always life give you those kind of hard mode. But when I look back, it's actually every time you choose the hard mode, it's more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. It's just like you look at the workout, and you do a workout. I'm breaking this down. Yeah. It's like, in order to get successful in a sport or working out or gaining muscle, there's a big trend today. It's like, unfortunately, there's no easy way to get there. It is hard work, and it's pain, and it's sweat, and then you'll be rewarded. There is no such thing as something that comes to you easily with some sort of success that mean you didn't do anything. That's just wrong. It's a very, very wrong and very dangerous perception, by the way. And I think it's
It's very interesting. I just read that this morning, because we always talk about the big fearless moment in life, right? Yeah. Which is true. Like we had that life-changing moment. But actually, it's more important. Also, recently, I'm reflecting. It's every day you have the small moment. Like every moment you have the choice to choose, like overcoming fear. Yes. Like you have another choice to do that thing, to say yes or say no. So that's like back to what you said. It's a muscle training.
Yes,
it's just like a workout.
And I always like to say that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being fearful and doing it nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is a very, very important distinction and an important lesson. There is just, you see a lot of courageous people out there, and you might be admiring them, but that doesn't mean they're not fearful. They've just decided to go for it anyway, regardless of what might happen or whatever the outcome. They just do it. And yes, I totally agree. Everyone has that option. Mm-hmm. It's just you create limits in your own mind. Mm-hmm. To either be stopped by something or to move forward.
Yeah. When did you start realize that? Like, it's doing it anyway?
I think, I started in small things. Like, I started in small things all over my life, just in tiny little things. Like, for example,
give us an example.
Yeah, for example, pursuing something like child pornography and human trafficking worldwide, or like fighting for that cause. A lot of people told me, it's like,
that's
why on earth would you do this?
That's not small. That's actually quite huge.
And why do you want to occupy with something so horrific and so horrendous and all these whys? And I said, yeah, but why not? There are millions of kids out there who are suffering, who have suffered, and just because I could choose another path doesn't mean I'm gonna be the one that shies away and that looks away. I have been certain gifts and certain opportunities in my life. Why not use them, especially for those areas where other people would shy away from?
Did you have a moment like you realized this is one part of your big calling? Yeah, I do have that question too, because I feel like you have this so strong passion and to make the change in this field.
I think, in the end, it's also about giving voice to the voiceless. And And I remember I had this one moment where it all began. It was like a meeting with someone from the International Red Cross at the time. You know, I had my daughters were very, very tiny at home. And she was sitting down with me and handing me this folder. And she said, I would like you to look at this folder. And I said, okay, well, what is it? And it was like, just look at it, and then we'll talk again. And this folder was like, and that was 2004 or something. I don't even remember, 3 or 4 or something in that sort of realm.
And your daughter like very.
And my daughter were like 1 and 2.
1, 2, okay.
Or 1 and 3, you know, and that. And I, for the first time, read all these statistics and all the cases worldwide, and how the internet, at that time, still very young for the masses,
exactly.
Had opened a field for that kind of crime of abusing children, and how, you know, facilitating access to you know, that kind of illegal content. And I was shocked. I thought, my God, how can it be that something like this is happening on such a large scale, and I don't know about it. You know, I've been well educated. I read the news. It was like, it's you know, I wasn't hiding behind some rocks, and I had absolutely no clue. And then the more I dug into it, the more I understood how prevalent these crimes are, how, you know, they are not committed mostly by stranger dangers. There are 90% are their social closest environment. So most perpetrators are known to their victims. So then I, of course, also started understanding how very difficult it is, because there are so many people that I also came to meet in all these years that then opened up to me and said, well, yes, it was my uncle, it was my neighbor, it was my father, it was, you know, it's unfortunately mostly men who commit these kind of crimes. There are women out there, but not in percentage-wise, very few. And I thought, it was just, I don't know, it just had me. It's just like I thought that I need to do something. I need to try and protect children from what's happening, because quite frankly, sexual abuse is like murder, just in rates. It's really a horrendous trauma. 2/3 of those who are convicted to jail are not so-called pedophiles. They are people where that's a crime of opportunity, and it's a power game. So it's like someone who chooses a knife to hurt someone as a weapon. Someone like that chooses, you know, sexual assault to hurt someone. It's a power struggle more than that there are only, for example, like pedophiles sexually aroused by children's bodies. But we, you know, in society, one tends to mix these things around. Only 1/3 of those committed to jail are so-called pedophiles. That means they're really only, that's a sort of disturbance that is that they are only sexually aroused by children's bodies.
And the work you are currently doing, what is the goal, or what kind of actual things you are doing now in this field?
I'm doing a lot of different things. We're trying to, obviously, that the development, which is a very sad development, because since that year in 2004 or something, nothing has a lot changed, but it got worse.
Because of the internet.
Because of the internet. There are doubled, like there is millions and millions and millions of pictures and videos of abuse material in the internet. It's only rising. It's only rising. The rise of AI has sort of quadrupled just in 1 year.
Oh yeah, that make it even worse.
The content that's out there, it's just mayhem. And I've always done a lot of things, so I've sort of we're trying to prevent these kind of things. We're trying to work with the big tech platforms to really hold them accountable, because quite frankly, they always had these kind of tools out there to take away that kind of material. But they often choose not to, just because it drives money. It's a very bitter truth. So that is one thing. Then, to try and educate people and legislative and people from all over the world of what's happening, what can be done. We're talking a lot about, safety by design. So how does technology that gets developed gets designed in a way that it is actually safe for human beings? And especially for young people, but in the end for all of us.
Yeah.
So there's all this technologies out there, all the opportunities are out there. And I always try to look at the bright side of things. I know that there are great people out there fighting that fight. And there are these opportunities. It just needs, in my point of view, more awareness by a larger set of population to create more pressure. Because quite frankly, also in politics, you know that it's pressure creates change. And if you create pressure on your government right now, they are forced to do some changes.
If there's one thing like normal people, like our audience, they can do to help or contribute in this field, what do you think is that?
I think it starts with removing, thinking barriers. Because I've met a lot of people who have told me, well, this is all good and this is just horrible, but I'll tell you, this will never happen in my family.
Okay.
Or you have, which is understandable, religious or somehow other cultural restrictions that, you don't talk about sexuality in any way at home. But quite frankly, these are things that are still happening out there. And by, not facing them and understanding what needs to be done, for example, to educate your young children and how to educate yourself around it, it's just like a little bit like, imagine you have a child and you're going to teach the child how to get to school safely. It's like you're going to do that. That you're going to do that exercise, I don't know how many times in order for you to understand, okay, now I have the feeling that my child is going to arrive at school safe. It's like, and it's a little bit like that. It's like, you just have to open your mind to that there is just stuff out there. It doesn't always have to happen, but you can be prepared for when it does, or when you all of a sudden know someone who needs help, when he seeks help. And it starts with the fact that, believing in children is a very big thing. So on average, a child who is experiencing something like that,
facing the reality itself is already a big step.
Absolutely. Right. One of the biggest steps, I think, is to start understanding that this is something that's happening. And just by looking away, it won't go away. As like facing it and educating yourself around it and understanding a little bit more will protect you more and everyone around you.
Women in the Penthouse, we have 3 words: fearless, limitless, and ageless. So you actually mentioned already the definition of being fearless. You said it's doing it anyway.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what kind of misperception you think people, especially women, have about being fearless?
Fear is a healthy reaction in itself, right? Because it's there to protect you from harm. Another one of those archaic things in us, right? It was, in order to be alert to, it would potentially protect you from something dangerous happening. So just because you're fearful, it doesn't mean that this is bad. It's like, and I wonder if those who are apparently completely fearless live the best lives, if they, if you really want to put it out that way. It's like, I think it's much more about accepting that there will be many moments in your life that you will be full of fear.
Full of fear. Yeah.
Yes, because you are alone. You are in something very new. You are faced with traumatic experiences. You name it. There can be so much where, you will have fear. And that's, quite frankly, okay. The question is, how do you deal with it? I was like, do you let it overwhelm you? Do you let it, like, freeze you and or like hinder you from moving forward?
Yeah.
Then you have to sort of look at yourself and it's like, what is this fear doing with me? But I think it's okay to accept fear.
Do you have a moment you can share with our audience, like you're doing it anyway, like you said, just
I think there are masses of moments where I sort of did it anyway. Trying to understand.
Maybe this year, the most, I always want to ask guests, like, what is the most courageous thing or fearless thing you've done?
But quite frankly, if you look at this year, it was like starting my podcast. I had a lot of people telling me all sorts of reasons why I shouldn't be doing this. And, and then it's an interesting thing. By the way, this is something that I appreciated very much in those years when I lived in the United States. Because there, the mentality is a little different. In Europe, where often, people are often will tell you lots of doubts why you shouldn't do something, because it might be that you fail. Yeah, that's right. It might be that this and that. It's like, yeah, that's right. But I do believe that the biggest failure is not starting at all. I did it anyway. I started the podcast, and I started with this bold idea to create something bigger. And my ideas are, behind all of this are much bigger than the podcast itself. And we will see where it takes me. But I just didn't let myself be stopped by quite frankly, quite a lot of people telling me all their fears and all their
How long was the time,
outcomes.
Since you had the idea of launching the podcast to you finally launch it?
It's probably 1.5 years or 2 years.
So like you said, in between, there are a lot of people who try to convince you that it's not worthwhile doing it.
Yes. And they have, and it's not that they're always coming around with non-valid reasons. There are a lot of valid reasons out there.
Logic reasons.
Yeah, launching something like that.
Yeah.
Or, for example, I also remember that it was a little bit of an unusual method, but for the NGO I ran for very many years and the work we discussed earlier, I had this opportunity to go on that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Does that ring a bell? Yeah. So, and they told me I could go on the show, and, if I won something, it would be I could give it wherever I wanted to give it to. And I tell you, though, at that time, everyone in my closest surrounding said I was crazy. Because what if I failed? I was a very public figure. What if I failed? And what if I made a fool out of myself? And, I would have been public and everyone would talk about it. And I said, well, yeah, but it's sort of a game. It's like Trivial Pursuit, it's like you win or you lose. And no risk, no fun. And I went and I swear to God against every advice into that show and won €500,000 and then donated to the cause. No one believed in me earlier. And that's a sometimes it's this, first of all, it was a little bit of these kind of lessons that you learn, that just because if you believe in yourself, that's the most important thing. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you have very, very lonely moments in your life. But if within you, deep inside, it feels right, and you can look yourself in the mirror next day and say, well, I tried. And you were not afraid of failure. You actually calculated it in. There was always an option of failure. Then you're on the right track. And that, I think, is important.
We always I think, especially for a lot of women, it's nothing wrong. We have good friends, we chat, we talk about all the ups and downs of life. But somehow a lot of time we are holding back by the opinions, especially from the close circle.
Absolutely.
So what you mentioned, I think it's so important. We need to have this time just stay with ourselves.
Yes. You actually have to be become very comfortable with yourself. And that, this is a little bit of this sort of cheesy self-help talk was like, love yourself. But there's a big truth to that. It's like, if you're content and if you're happy with who you are to the core, and you ask yourself, is this truly me, or am I trying to like, fulfill other people's expectations, which I think a lot of women, including myself, are dealing with and fighting with, and trying to appease others in order not to create friction. You have to be focusing inward and asking only yourself. And it's like, is this something I really want to do? If does this feel true to the core of who I am, and not someone else? Because quite frankly, it doesn't matter what you do. Someone will always dislike it.
That's so true. Yes.
Always. Right? So, to think that you're going to start something and you have all the people behind you, no, forget it. There will always be people who are not content.
Because if you change, those people who like your authenticity will hate you.
Yeah.
So there will be people who don't like you.
Yeah. There will always be people who have bad opinions about you. And then there's this thing. It's like, let them.
My free moment, I think, I realized all the opinions from people have on you is not based on you. It's based on them, their upbringing, their environment. I think that's a very free moment. So then you care much less about other people's opinion.
Yes. It's a very important sort of thing to just know that often it is them mirroring something onto you.
And you mentioned a lot of times like being the true self.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
but that's a hard trip. That's a hard voyage.
I know. It takes time, a long time, a lot of reflection. So I'm curious, so what is the true you now, you think? What's some of the core traits of that person?
I don't know if I can explain. I'm really bad at explaining myself, but I just think that doing these things that I truly believe in, despite having people around me who are constantly telling me why I shouldn't be doing this or that. But so far, it's my life. I have to be happy with it. And no one else, quite frankly. That's the only thing that matters. And it sounds a little selfish.
Yeah.
But it isn't, because within that self-respect and that sort of self-love is where you create that positivity that you can also radiate towards the outer world.
Exactly.
In any relationship and anything, if you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to be happy in your surrounding either. Because either you're going to seek others to mirror your problems onto them, or you're going to, try and get rid of your problems by just projecting stuff onto the outer world. You're not. And everyone knows that. We're talking about relationships.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with where you are in your life and world, it's very hard to then, be happy with someone else. It's just one of those core lessons.
It's so beautiful. And you mentioned it's a long journey for you. And I know you've been experiencing so many exposure to public scrutiny, right?
Yeah.
So I think you told me like media always write you up or write you down, always, like you have a lot of misjudgment on you.
Yes.
So do you think you find peace with that?
Yeah. Because I've come to the conclusion, you're never as good and never as bad as people say you are.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Especially when you're talking about media and press. Media is its own vehicle, and it's a very powerful instrument, and it needs to sell. And it's selling by telling stories. And those stories are either some sort of dramatic or very exciting, but they're never mediocre, because that doesn't sell.
That's true.
So they are either going to...
That's essence of marketing.
Yeah. So, that's just, they're going to write you up, or they're going to, in order to then take you down. That's the rules of media. Because otherwise they don't just sell any stories. And to understand that that is often very far away from who you really are, is a very core and very important understanding. It very rarely has something to do with you. It's sort of someone else's projections onto you. But it's very hard to differentiate that, especially when you're young and the opinions of others matter to you. And you're trying, and as when many women are, trying to please others, trying to be perfectionist, or trying to, as so many young girls are, then that's a hard one.
We talk about, like, I think a lot of women, not only women, I think everyone, our basic need is to be fully seen, to be seen, right? But when we think about like public figure like you, sometimes people are intimidated by those attacks by the media. So subconsciously we have this fear. Actually, I talk a lot about this with previous guests. Like, it's not only the fear of failure; it's more important fear of being successful. A lot of time.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
So if what we would say to those women who subconsciously holding them back, fear of being too big and being attacked by media, like you've maybe experienced in the past.
Anyone who has climbed the ladder in some sorts, may it be in the corporate world, or may it be in the arts, or has reached some sort of success at some point, knows the higher you get, the more lonely and the harsher the environment is. It's like, that's one of those coins, and it's an important information to have. But let's ask the question the other way around. Would you rather sit at home and not try to fulfill whatever dreams you have because you're afraid of becoming too successful? That means you have already failed.
Because you're living other people's script.
Yes, and if you're doing, or if you're not doing something because, for example, you're fearing to become too successful and too popular and too this and that, and then too many people would envy you, and it's like, but if that then means that you won't try at all, you already failed. You already failed then and there. Because the what ifs, we don't have answers to this. It's like, you might become very successful and very popular. It doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be hated by everyone. You'll always have people who don't favor what you're doing, or are just envious and trying to harm you just because they couldn't reach it themselves. Yes, but that shouldn't be stopping you. Because this is about you. And you are the one who's, facing and taking the responsibility for your life and aiming for whatever you are striving for, whatever you want to achieve in your life. And quite frankly, then also, what is success? Success, its definition is very different to a lot of people. For some, it's a big career in the corporate world. For some, it's having a happy family life. All of this can be success.
But at least you tried, right?
Yes.
I think that's what we discussed. No regret.
No. No. You try. Because if you don't try, you have already failed then and there. And yes, of course, it was like, should you take completely stupid risks? I don't know. if you don't cling to your life.
So beautiful. You take the show, finally, despite all the opposing opinions from your friend, that feeling I can see from your face. Like that's so. Yes, I made it. Like this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
me.
and I did it.
Choose the thing. I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing that really matters, because quite frankly, I don't know whether I'm still doing this in a year or two, right? I have no idea. I'm trying hard, but if not, and if then someone would say, well, she failed with that, well, so be it. Then it wasn't the right moment or the right time or whatever it is, but at least I gave it a try. I was like, and I've already learned so much for myself and from my own life. And in these recent months, in this recent year since I sort of started with the production process, it was like, I've gained so much insight. So even if it wouldn't continue and other people from the outside looking at it would label it as failure, doesn't mean it is a real failure for me. Because for sure, it has taken me like a gazillion steps further. I got to know phenomenal people, you know, and there is such a, for me, steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, for me, that is success.
Wow, that's beautiful and very powerful.
Yeah. That's the important thing, I think.
So the next word we talk about limitless, and you mentioned kind of you stay in US for quite a long time, right? Like
10, 11 years,
Yeah. So kind of you mentioned US culture and mentality give you more limitless feel.
Yes.
Yeah. Take us more about that.
It's something I appreciate a lot about the American culture. You know, no country, no culture is perfect by any means. But I always like to look at the positive takeaways.
Yeah.
And one of those positive takeaways that I learned from the Americans is that positive outlook and that anything goes. And you'll have people much faster by your side to, you know, pursue like a dream.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, go for it. They'll give you that go, that push. And I had many discussions, for example, in school with schools when the American parents often they praise their kids like there's no tomorrow. And some people would argue, yeah, but you know, if you praise your child for, I don't know, a really bad performance, then that's wrong. It's like, you know, yeah, there might be a point, but as we all now, it's like we get a little older, life is going to show you its limits anyway. So a child that is pushed and positively encouraged, even if the outcome isn't all too perfect then and there, is going to continue trying.
Yeah.
Because there's mom and dad or whoever's around them is believing in them. And quite honestly, sometimes that's all you need. It's someone that believes in you. To take that leap of faith, to take that step forward. And I think that's something beautiful I took from these years in the US.
What do you think the biggest maybe limitation women put on ourselves?
I think, you know, I think this is historically and structurally. We as women have been put in by religions, by cultures, we've sort of been put in the corner in order not to become too dangerous, perhaps. I really see it that way because I believe that the strength and the power that a woman holds within, that is limitless. But whoever is around her who can't face that strength, that's when they try to put her down. And that's when they try to limit her. So all these women and girls that grew up in the understanding that you have to be this, you have to be that, you cannot be loud, you cannot be uncomfortable, you cannot be bold, you cannot... Everything, by the way, that a lot of men are allowed to be. And I'm not against men, right? It's like, make that clear. But women and girls are, and that, by the way, is not only in the Western culture, you have it everywhere in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah? They're suppressed, they're silenced, to an extent that is absolutely shocking to me. And I always think that the only reason for all of that is that whoever was around them were too afraid of the true power that lies within the female, the being a female.
Yeah. But the first thing we need to realize, we ourselves need to realize that we have this power.
Yes.
Inside. Yeah.
And not make others believe you know, that you are
like you
bad,
can't do it. Yeah.
Or weak, or stupid, or really anything, because you are not. We are completely differently wired. Thanks to science, going back to that, now we also know that we're completely differently wired. Like medicine only now is catching up on how differently wired we all are. It's like, and just because the outside world,
from your like perspective, how we are differently wired.
We're completely differently wired. It starts with, you know, development of the fetus in the womb. It's like all these surges of all the hormones, how our brain develops, how it develops faster, how we're subject to all these hormone floods throughout our lifetime and probably until menopause. You know, what happens in our brain with all these shifts all the time, you know, automatically makes you understand that you're differently wired. That if you look at the female brain, these, you know, and you understand that in certain developmental, because of certain existence of hormones that are much larger quantity, like estrogen, for example, there are different parts of the brain that are far more developed than, for example, those in men. Different, but just different areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find it extremely interesting because that shows we're not the same. We might be equal, but we're just different. And that doesn't mean, just because we're different, it doesn't mean we're lesser. Right? By no means. We're exactly the same. It's just we're wired differently. We're going to tackle problems differently. We're not made for it. Now going back to the archaic human being. It's like we're you know, fight or flight for us. It's like we couldn't develop all this physical strength and go fighting, because normally the women would have to be caring for some sort of like a child or some sort of vulnerable within their sort of community. They couldn't just leave everyone behind and go fighting, right? So what happened to the female brain is that they had to develop strategies to sense stressors and dangers in a different way, and sometimes faster. And that means you're sensing, a woman can sense when an atmosphere is off far faster than a man can often. When something doesn't feel right. We're wired for this connection because, quite frankly, survival in the old days also meant that you have connections with other females. Because if you're bound together, and if you join forces, you will actually have a chance against some sort of threat from the outside.
And our intuition expanded.
Yes.
Right?
And that is extremely intelligent, because it helped us through all these thousands and thousands of years to survive. And I think that is the beauty of it. It's also beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And we really need to support each other.
Yes.
Like you just said, when we are supporting each other, when we are together, the power is expanded.
Yes.
Yes. And so what is like one thing, another question, I think we have a lot of limited belief. Actually, you mentioned like we cannot be too loud, too standing out.
Yeah.
What is one biggest, maybe, I really love, I said a lot of time, I really love the word unlearn. I think we are all on the journey like to unlearning.
Yes.
We learn a lot from school, those kind of belief, which is a lot of them are not true. So the spiritual growth, so our personal growth is to unlearn those beliefs. So do you have like one biggest belief from yourself, like you realize, oh, it's not true?
I would say that I had to unlearn the belief that I was somehow less or not as capable or not. I had a lot of, beliefs or things put upon me which made me believe I'm not important. I'm not, it's not that you're, somehow less. And I had to unlearn that is not true. And yeah.
That's beautiful, because your body and especially your mind absorb that, right?
Yeah.
The kind of false information people post on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're young and when you're a young girl and you have no idea. So you, of course, which is natural, you start tending to believe what is put on you from the outside. It's just by the years of experience and going through different, phases of your own life and meeting, probably sometimes it's also just meeting different and the right people. Then you start to question whether your beliefs, there are many, but whether they're all right. And I think it's an important task to do at some point, or every now and then in your life. Is the life I'm living now, is that really according to who I truly am? Or is it more what I've been, with other people have sort of imposed on me?
Did you talk about this with your girls?
I have.
Do you talk about being limitless, that kind of topic with them, discuss that?
Yes. Yeah. I definitely always, it would be better to ask them, but but I think I've always tried to support them and to make them believe that they can achieve anything. If they put hard work behind it, and if they're, they move forward, because in the end, the speed doesn't really matter so much, but the forward movement and not looking back so much is what really counts.
Well, this is so beautiful. The speed is not that much,
no,
right? Because I think in this world, we always trained to be fast-paced, and also short result, I would say.
Yes. But we also have learned, and that's something very important, I think, is that nothing good, if you look back in history, that has been really massively successful has happened overnight. Good things need time. And it doesn't really matter where you look at. For example, I sometimes feel sorry for modern day politicians, because something is happening in the world, and 5 seconds later they're having the journalists and the microphones in front of their face, and they have to have an answer. But there is no time to think and reflect anymore. And sometimes big problems, big life questions, big events need time to reflect, to come up with better solutions. And we're living in the world right now where that seems hardly, it's like impossible. Everything is fast. Everything is turning in a way that we really have to learn to put ourselves out every now and then of this it's like a spinning wheel.
Like we're always responding.
Yeah.
Right? Just quick like you said, give a quick response. Actually, we need time to step back.
Yes.
To pause and reflect. That's a more conscious feedback.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it's small thing or politics, bigger policy, I think we all need that.
Yes.
That break.
I think that's one of those really important lessons. It's you can't expect good things to happen in that kind of speed. We need time to, that's also a little bit what what we're doing with the podcast.
And another big field of what you are doing is digital education.
Yes.
Right. It sounds a bit general, so maybe you can give us more context about that. Like, I think you mentioned about we really need to be conscious about the digital world.
Yes.
And also you talk about the emotional intelligence.
Yes.
In reading all the online stuff, that kind of thing. So yeah, maybe you can share more about that.
That's a lot about digital literacy, you know. I think it's extremely important. There are two aspects to this. One, I think every child, every human being has to be, learning the fundamentals of technology out there. It's like I've always said that in some countries they do it, for example, is to learn coding. Okay, now some would probably argue that, you don't need coding anymore, where AI is doing everything. But coding doesn't mean you're going to be a coder. Coding only means that you will understand the fundamentals of how this modern technology is actually built up, is, zeros and ones and all of that.
Yeah.
But if you understand those fundamentals, you'll be much better equipped later on to understand how certain things functioned and all of it. And then it goes to, to understanding how to use the different, technical devices, how to use the platforms. Of course, it also comes down to the fact what social media is and what it really does for you and what it doesn't. There's all these things that if you're not well equipped for that kind of reality, by the way, which we're already living, you're going to be on the losing side. That's for sure. And then in all of this, there is this sort of soft skills component for us as humans, because quite frankly, we're human beings. We're actually quite archaic in how we act, how we feel.
Yeah.
We're built for fight or flight. We're highly emotional. We're built for connection. We're social. We thrive on social connections, and that will never ever change. And we can see it in how technology is shaping. For example, the outcome of the mental health curves and stuff. So we're seeing a lot more depression. We're seeing a lot more anxiety. We're seeing a lot of more sort of unhappy. I think I read the other day that normally in sort of happiness charts, the mid-aged people were normally the most unhappy in all dating back since this has been recorded. But now apparently this is the first time that the generation who is the most unhappy are not the mid-agers anymore. It's the younger ones.
Yeah.
And that tells you something. It tells you that there is something going wrong. And it's not...
Because I think they were born on this screen, right?
Yeah.
I think they never... That's the sad truth. I think they never experienced... I will not say never, but they had much less time experiencing like this kind of real person connection.
Exactly.
Which is really the fundamental meaning or the beautiful part of being a human.
Yes. And that is so important because we all grew up. I grew up, I had my parents sent me out and told me to get home when it was dark. When the streets, the lights in the streets were going on, that was for me the time to get home. It's like we were unsupervised. There's studies out there that say that children wish hardly anything more than more unsupervised play. They don't wish for more online gaming. Is that if that's the only thing you give them, that they'll be doing that. But they don't know that they need their friends and connection. They probably can't express it that way. But for us, and we know that from neuroscience, how the brain develops, and was like play, the interaction with others, to understand, to solve problems, to take risks, all that is involved in play.
Yes.
And if we don't do that anymore, if children, for example, are spending their entire childhood and youth in front of screen, they're not learning this anymore. They're not learning, and this is also proven in studies. There is a loss in empathy. There is a loss in communication skills. There is, if you don't even know how to react with anyone anymore, if you've never seen them cry, or if you don't understand that you said something really hurtful and what it actually does to another human being, right? So as much as I am someone who's pro-tech, because I don't believe in that we can turn back the wheel of time, and that the proper education for all the digital devices is as crucial as reading and writing and all of it.
Yeah.
But we also, and that's what we've missed a lot in the recent years, we have to understand what it means to be truly human. And humanity is archaic, and we're built for connection and social belonging and all of it. And if we don't belong, we get unhappy, because in the old days, this meant you were excluded from your group, and that meant most likely you're not going to survive. These circuits, these things are still somewhere in us. This is how we function. And to identify what it means to be human.
It's more digital make us actually more isolation.
Oh, much more.
Yeah, much more isolation. Like you said, I completely agree. Like our fundamental need is connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
And I think on the other hand is social media and digital really provide more, I think, expand the fear.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to understand that, I think technology is morally neutral in itself. It's just how we use it.
Exactly.
That's the question.
That's what I believe. Actually, everything is neutral.
Yeah.
It's how you put your perspective on it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And, someone who uses, Excel spreadsheets day in and day out for their work, they're not going to be necessarily a worse human being. There's nothing bad about that, whether you did, in old books or you're doing it in Excel charts these days. Why are people so stressed? Is mostly because when it interferes with human life, and that is when it comes down to social media. Is when you're compared, when you're bullied, when some people put hate speech out there, when you think everyone is living the life but that's when the big stressors come in, and also of course for the young people. And we have to be aware of that.
So if now as a young mother, she has maybe a child, say 7 years old, what kind of time allocation you think is appropriate for them to be exposed online?
I truly believe that, for example, there has to be a healthy balance, right? I believe that little children, quite frankly, they don't need time in front of the screen at all. They don't need any personal devices, first and foremost, and they don't need time in front of the screen at all, if that's an option. That being said, doesn't mean that they cannot partake in, family FaceTime calls, because this is about connecting with family members who are probably far away in the world. That doesn't mean that you cannot watch a nice movie on occasion. That doesn't mean that supervised you cannot also be engaging with a play, an age-appropriate online game. There's nothing bad about that per se, but as soon as it sort of either gets the electronic nanny, meaning the adults are like shying away from their responsibility of taking care and actually creating programs for young people, where the technology is just being the nanny, then we're getting in dangerous waters, because then they're only sitting in front of screens and they're not learning all these essential, necessary skills, and also, quite frankly, the joys of play and being with friends and interacting and all of it. So, I know it's extremely hard these days, because a lot of parents, they just give these devices out to their children. But one really has to think about it, what it does to your child. And that's why, for example, I speak with a lot of scientists and was like, what does it mean for the brain development? It's not only about always judging the people and being there saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing this because I believe it. No, we're thankfully so far in scientific research that we know these days that if you spend too much time especially in these very formative years where the brain develops extremely much and fast, it's like that it is essential to play. It is essential because all these neurons, everything is developing, and it happens significantly less if you're in front of the screen, and that should alone make you think.
Yeah. And I think parents' behavior is also so important, right?
Oh,
like
massive.
It's always like kids observe what you do, learn
Yeah.
from what you're doing. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you say, by the way. I've
Yeah.
always said that.
Yeah.
You don't have to, say much at all. They will copy you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
Yeah.
it's the actions that matter. And if you're someone who's constantly on the phone, who's constantly, distracted, because it distracts us as much as anyone else, and then you're at the same time trying to be strict with your kids, telling them they shouldn't, you're not really credible that time.
It's true. I have a friend spends, she said, more than 3,000 K, like taking kids to more than 30 countries, even there are only like 4 or 5. So, and yeah, it's massive. Like like you mentioned, the creativity like kids can develop. It's a completely different story.
Yes. I mean, you always have to see, you also don't have to overwhelm your children. It's like you have to nurture them and let them discover the world and have these areas for play and of course foster if they have talents and all of it. But a little bit of boredom is very healthy too. We're not spiritually, mentally, and anyhow wired for that speed of change. Humankind is highly adaptive. That's been shown all these, centuries and thousands of years. But the speed that we're living in right now is just too fast. And a lot of people that I meet, and it doesn't really matter where you meet them, in the top CEO floors to some I don't know, farmers market, people are, at least this is my perception, are sensing, well, things are off. It's like, and I think it's just too fast. It's a little too fast. And we don't get the time anymore to reflect, to, as you say, step back and reflect. And I think the more we realize how important that is, and to give yourself that break, and the healthier and the happier and the better outcomes we will create.
How can we do that in daily life, especially for women, you think? Do you have any personal practice you can share? Like really stay, I would say, grounded. Because when things going so fast, we just naturally, react or respond to things or people.
Yeah. Well, I've made the habit for myself that if something is, if someone is somehow attacking me, or if asking me something like a reaction of me, it's like I've learned to say, I need time. I need time. Or if I have an issue, if someone is, wanting something from me, or you have an argument or something, I often, if it's important, I just sleep on it for a night. I don't instant react. Especially if it concerns larger things. Of course, sometimes you sit with someone and you just argue, and it's that's just how it develops, right? But we're talking bigger things. It's like give yourself time to reflect. And to also sometimes let emotions settle. Because in the heat of a moment, the heat of where you are and how emotionally, and whatever triggers might, flood some emotions within you, it doesn't necessarily always mean that what you're feeling in that very moment is really true. Sometimes things need to cool off a little bit, and to, just to reset, and then you can look at them again. I think that's important. And I'm, for example, someone who craves nature. It's like, for me, I always try, wherever I am, even in cities, I try to take a walk in a park. I need green. I need sort of doing nothing and just looking around in trees, basically. Or ideally, I have my dog with me, which I love. But that's one of those things I always do, because it helps me to ground myself.
I extremely like the light on the tree leaves. Somehow I feel it's so vibrant. It's like you can see the source energy, that kind of reflection moment.
Yeah, and I had this very interesting conversation that's going to be airing soon. It was like with a neuroscientist all talking about the brain at rest and how to actually rest the brain. And one of those things is really to just walk in the park and do nothing.
Do nothing.
Or just look at the window and don't do anything. And don't engage with anything. In the park, it's better because you also have these, these factors through your nose and from the trees and the plants that sort of will benefit you. But the brain at rest has certain mechanism that we will also explain in the show. But, that it's like a shower. It's like a cleansing mechanism when it gets rest.
Yeah.
And we all know from, athletes and stuff, it's like, resting is as crucial as the workout or the performance or anything, because without the proper rest, we can't perform at our best.
When we relax, everything goes well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move to the final part, which is also one of my favorites, Ageless.
Yes.
I know you will have a milestone age next year. Right?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
Can we expose that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I'm turning 50 next year. So I like to put it as level 5.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not there yet, but next year it's going to be reaching level 5.
Okay.
And I actually think...
Did you still remember level 4 when you reach level 4? Like
I do, but I don't think I thought about it that much.
Okay. What is one thing you think being in the 40s you think told you, or the biggest thing you learned from aging, if we use that word?
I think that it was the most tumultuous, but also the biggest learnings, and it was those years where I started to become or move more and more towards myself. I would say, for example, people ask me, it's like, I don't want to be 25 anymore. I said, yeah, okay, you want to look like 25, fine, but I'd rather be myself today because I feel just so much better. Because I learned a lot. I've sort of arrived far more in who I am. So I'm...
Through all those years.
Yes,
right?
Through all
the
those
journey
years.
And events in life, yeah.
I am happy like that. It's like, yes, of course, you age, and aging isn't actually exactly an easy thing, but it's also to age, healthy. That's what I'm looking forward to. And it's like to do a lot of things that because quite frankly, if I'm 80, but if I'm fully healthy and fit, okay. And in the end of
anything,
yes, you can do anything. So I think that's what I would, work for and towards. And you also want to see that you lived a life. You want to look back and see what you learned, and what would you... Is there something you leave behind? Is there do you have some sort of legacy, or do you have, I look at my own children, and I am amazingly proud of their ways and the life they're both leading and the choices they're making. And I'm just like, wow. And I made a lot of compromises for that to be happening for them. But looking at them, I would do it all over again. Always. And to see them, and then with that you see the next generation living certain truths and values, and ideally, and that's really what I think, becoming better than I ever was. That would make me happy and successful in retrospect of my life.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I'm still trying to digest all the information you said. Yeah. So how do you see ageless? While we propose this word, I think our spirit is ageless. We don't when we say limitless is the mind, but I think our spirit is ageless. So we
Absolutely.
have so many beautiful examples, like a lot of women, they establish their business after 50 or gaining huge success, right? So, but it's sad, still we are told like we have this threshold like 30 years old or 35. Sometimes our CV are not looked at by the HR person when you are above 35. So that's the truth.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's a very dangerous thing because, quite frankly, if we're now all living up to 100, what? And then we're not working for 40 years or what? I mean, how is this going to be feasible? And especially if you look in these societies where fewer and fewer children are being born, you look at someone who's 50 or 55 or whatever, they're in the if they're healthy, it was like they're in their bloom. They're just at half.
Mm-hmm.
They've made mistakes. They made experiences. And, that's whom you should be looking at.
Yeah.
And I think the Chinese have a different respect towards the elder. It's, I remember, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's like alone the fact of having gray or white hair is sort of respected because the old age is something that is
like
more looked
like we carry the wisdom, kind of. Yes,
exactly. And what happened to the Western societies where we sort of push away people who are acquired wisdom within their lives? I mean, to not look at that and not benefit from wisdoms of others is stupid. It's not only about learning from your own mistakes. That's great and important.
Yeah.
But wow, if you can look at others and just by listening, learning from them and their mistakes.
Yeah.
And then potentially, just because you were able to listen and take it in, not stumble yourself.
Can you think about any like ageless role model you have? When you think about you are, for example, 70, you think, oh, I want to be her. Someone
it's
like
funny
that.
because I had this aunt. She's unfortunately passed away, but she was like, I don't know, 85 or something. And she would come when I was young, and then she would come and visit us. She was absolutely amazing. She led a very, very difficult life with an abusive husband and all sorts of traumatic incidents. And I mean, you name it. It was a lot in that life. Mm-hmm. She was always positive. She arrived with 85, and she always came with her sneakers. At that time, it wasn't so popular to wear sneakers. It's not like today. And she'd have marched in full of positive spirit. Uh-huh. And I remember my dad at the time, who was like, I don't know, 55 perhaps, and he was sort of saying something, it was my shoulder or my back or whatever, these kind of things. And then she would look at him and said, Andreas, that was his name, age starts in your head. And I've always remembered that. And she was so joyful and so young and so active. And she had this ability to at events or like family parties, she would gather the young people around her because she had so many good stories to tell and so much wisdom and so much enthusiasm. Yeah. She would inspire the young people. They would all sit around and laugh with her. And she was not, good looking. It was not about her looks. Traditionally, what was like, and we don't age, we don't want to have wrinkles and all of this. No. She was a little on the little heavy side, and she was full of wrinkles. But quite honestly, no one cared.
Oh, yes.
No one cared. Because she was the epiphany of life. And her life was everything but easy. And that for me was ageless. Is that soul that she didn't let herself be made smaller or she just sort of decided that, whatever happened to her wouldn't define her. For me, that's one of the best examples.
Exactly. I think at the end of the day, people don't actually, they get your energy, like the feeling. We always say the most important, the feeling you leave to people, right?
Yeah.
So even if you are full of wrinkles, so people care so much about how we look, especially women. We are told to take care of how we look, right? But at the end of the day, it is energy. Like when you're talking about this, I can feel, even I feel like I can feel the energy from that aunt.
Yeah, she was absolutely amazing. And it's a little bit like sometimes with talking about looks again, was like little children.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they have a perception of that their grandma, whom they love dearly, is too heavy or too wrinkly or has white hair or has soggy skin? They don't care. Because they love their grandma. They couldn't care less how their grandma looks.
And that's the light we can give the world, I think. Whether you are 30, 50, 80, 90.
It comes all from within, and it's so cheesy, and it's probably, it's like, but it's true. It is not how you look. It's what radiates to the outside. And quite frankly, the more work you do with yourself, I think, the more you sort of arrive at your true self and all of that, the less it will matter how you look, because your outer shell is just your sort of protection.
Exactly.
The more we age, the older we get, the less protection we have. So if you're sort of stuck, and if you're unhappy, and if you never face the harsh realities that life has put upon you, or whatever you needed to work on, that's going to shine through. Because your appearances won't protect you anymore. It's when we age, when the light of the soul, if you want to put it spiritually, are going to shine through.
Yeah, when we are so comfortable with our own skin and our own light.
Yes.
Yeah. So what about level 5?
I don't know.
What are the things you are looking forward to? And it's big things on your agenda for level 5?
I don't know. I don't really think like that. I think, wow, when I was young, I thought I'd be dead by 50 because it was so far away and so it seemed so old.
When I was young, I feel like 30 is already a huge thing, right?
And yes, you're sort of older and wiser, perhaps a little bit, but I still feel very young within. And I'm notoriously curious, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing and expanding my plans and seeing where that life, where it's gonna take me. It's that journey, that river that just keeps flowing.
That's so beautiful. You mentioned that word as important, curiosity.
I'm notoriously curious, and I think.
I know you're a Sagittarius, so that's one of the key, because I told you I'm too.
Yeah.
So we're always keen to take the adventure, be curious. I think, that's important for in your so-called aging process.
Keeping an active mind, keeping, I'm curious in everything. I always want to learn. I will never come to the point where I think I've learned enough, because I don't believe that is true. I think there's always things to learn. It's never too late. And, it's...
be conscious, like we discussed, learn and unlearn, right? It's
yes.
always absorb the information and also be conscious about reflecting all the...
Yes,
things.
And I think, and doing a podcast has taught me that even more so, and, listening. Listening is a superpower in my point of view.
Yeah.
Listening to others, but also listening to yourself. And don't always, jump to conclusions and opinions, fast opinions. It was listen first. Perhaps there's something new to be learned. And I think that, keeping an active, wandering mind that wants to learn and will never... I love to surround myself with young people because I'm always learning.
That's true.
I want to understand how newer, younger generations think, how they tick, how they perceive life. What are the challenges? How are they thinking about the future? And that starts with children to teens to tweens. It's like there's always something to be learned. Every new day is going to teach you something.
Lifelong learning.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think of in a world that we're living now, where the change is so rapid, and especially also in the professional world. Quite frankly, lifelong learning is a thing that you are, will benefit you, because many of us will have learned one thing and will not stay with that profession because the change is just so fast.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of you changing your careers and your pathways and what you're doing throughout your lifetime a couple of times is very high. So keeping an open mind, being able and willing to learn despite how old you are, is going to bring you forward for sure.
And that also bring opportunity, because I think a lot of people see the world, like you said, it's always changing. We see the chaotic part.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at the same time, when you are conscious, when you continue learning, the more doors open, right?
Yes.
Like you create opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you need to create them on your own. I mean, it's only you, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So if we take the time machine to when you were 20.
Yeah.
So the current you, what 3 pieces of advice you may whisper to her?
20. I mean, for sure, trust your instincts. Don't rationalize them away. Trust your gut.
Love that. Rationalize them away.
Yeah.
Don't rationalize them away.
Yeah. That is for sure one of those things. And yeah, I mean, I guess believe in yourself. It doesn't really matter what others think or do. And just keep moving. Keep moving and probably fearless.
That's beautiful. Okay, I don't know the type, but I think we are almost there. And so finally, I always want my guests to leave one penthouse rule. I share the women in the penthouse concept. So penthouse to us is not only material affluence. It's about you have a beautiful, peaceful mind.
Yeah.
When you have your mind with the joy, peace, and we talk about consciousness, facing this fast-changing world. Your mind become your penthouse. So if we leave one penthouse rule to our audience, what is that?
I would say, in order to grow, you have to look very openly towards the uncomfortable things within yourself. If you don't face that, what many of us are running away from, shying away from, you will never grow. You will never learn. And it might be very uncomfortable for some time. But you will never reach any heights. You will never reach other levels if you don't do that work. And that's a little bit of a harsh truth, but you can't run away from what you have to learn in this life.
That's powerful.
Well.
Okay, I think I have all the questions. It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and inspiring journey. And I think I learned a lot.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure our audience will learn a lot. So where we can find you?
Well, the podcast, How Do We Manage? You can find it everywhere, wherever you got the podcast or on YouTube. And of course there's, I regularly, publish articles and stuff. So that's what be under my name.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We will put all your information in the show notes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you again, Stephanie,
for having me as a guest. It's been a true pleasure
so
to
happy
talk to you.
have you here.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, you were so powerful. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, so did I.
Remember, the Penthouse isn't just a place, it's a mindset. It's about breaking free from limits, owning your journey, and creating a life that's unapologetically yours.